And Vince never bought into that. He never believed in that. And backstage, I can tell you, Gabby, that was our biggest pitch.
It's about to get Gabby AF.
We about to get Gabby AF, Gabby AF. We about to get Gabby AF, Gabby AF.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Gabby AF. There's a lot happening in pro wrestling this week. I have a couple things I want to talk about. So I rallied in my friend, Mr. Jonathan Coachman, who's probably annoyed because I'm like talking to him all the time. But I was like, hey, did you want to chat with me a little bit this week? I have some thoughts and I don't want to talk about it alone. So please welcome back.
Annoyed? Look, I'm getting ready to. You see my background, Gabby? I'm getting ready to do the Coach and Bro show with Vince Russo, the man behind the Attitude Era. But I have time for you. You're a part of the family. We're going to be using you more and more and more. So I know there's a lot of topics. I want to know what you want to talk about.
So I want to talk about a few things I gotta reel your head about. Obviously, clearly, we just got the announcement this week that Raw, which has always been 3 hours, is now moving to 2 hours. Before I give my take on this, which I think is an obvious take, I want to talk to you and get your take on this a little bit.
So you say the word always. I started in 1999. I was 22 at the time, and Raw was not 3 hours then. It was 2 hours then, and that's when it was great because you didn't see all the superstars, all the stars like Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H. That's when I came in. There was no better time than that. You saw them every single show, Gabby. You hit the glass breaks. If you smell what The Rock is cooking, they come out. The place is going bananas, and you didn't see a superstar again or that until the main event. I've been preaching this for 25 years. If you want to have a show that's red hot, it needs to be 2 hours. And now that they're going to go to Netflix, I think the next 3 months are a test. Because now when you go to Netflix, guess what you don't have? Probably is commercials. So you can have hour and a half, hour and 45, 2 hours. It doesn't matter because it's a streaming service. So I love the idea, and I think fans are absolutely going to love it. I don't need multiple segment matches by multiple stars on the show.
I agree. I even before this year, I would say Raw. It's so interesting how much has changed since I've become a fan. Right. I would say like Raw was one of those shows that was very, very hard for me to watch for 3 hours sometimes because I'm like, it's kind of dragging. You see the same superstars on from at the beginning and then they're in the middle. And then it's kind of like, it seems some stuff would seem a little bit filler and a little bit silly.
Yes.
We've definitely come off that era, I believe, with Triple H now. It's kind of not as much kiddie watching as sometimes you would be. I don't know if you remember the zombies and stuff like that, but that we would see on Raw, where I was like, what is happening? But for me, I love this because as someone who consumes as much pro wrestling as I can, you know, selfishly to be like, wow, the next 3 hours I'm going to be watching and diverting into something, you know, it's tough. It's tough to keep your audience, I think, engaged for 3 hours. I think we're learning that in this new world, like the shorter things are, the more people are engaged. And, you know, I think a lot of people watch for certain things, right? I have friends that watch Raw with me and they are obsessed with Rhea and Dom. So like when that's over, they're kind of tuned out. So, you know, for 3 hours to kind of have that going, it's tough. I think even when I heard the 2 hour thing, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like I can be dialed in for a good 2 hours and 2 hours flies by. Like when I watch SmackDown, when I watch Dynamite, it really flies by. And I think it makes the stories more cohesive because you'll see a little bit and maybe they'll tie it together. But now I want to know what's going to happen next week on Raw. It's going to make me a little bit more better with the tease for the following week.
So I think it's 3 weeks ago, we saw Rhea and Dom in 8 pre-tapes. 8.
Right. I know.
8.
Right.
Too much.
The one thing I will say that does make it a little bit of downer, I do think for the talent is maybe it will cut off a little bit of time to give somebody on TV because if you're only focusing on, I mean, am I wrong? Okay, tell me why I'm wrong.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that.
You're welcome.
Here's what's been lost, Gabby, in the last several years since it's been 3 hours. When I started, I mentioned all the names. There had to be 15 to 20 guys in my era that could be main event guys. And you hear the word competition. What do fans say? No, it's choreographed. We know what's going to happen. It's not real competition. Now it's going to make the talent elevate their games. Because when you're not guaranteed by TV time, when you can sit on the sidelines, guess what you got to do? You got to be better. You got to tell better stories. You got to be able to tell a promo in a shorter period of time. That's what's going to happen. You're going to see some guys that can do it and some guys that cannot. Because in my era, oh my goodness, TV time was sacred, because also you had house shows. And your money at house shows was based off of where you were on the card and how you were perceived. So I love that. To me, it's not about just because you're on the roster, you get TV time. You have to earn it.
Yeah, it makes total sense. It actually, I didn't even think about it that way, because like I played sports my whole life, and it's like, oh, there's only one quarter left. So now I got to like prove myself in this one, because it's like, I want to stay in the game, or I want to not be taken out or not be a substitute of something. So it's kind of like, yeah, you have to prove yourself to get that time. And now it's a little bit more valuable because there is less time. That's a good way to think about it. See, this is why I talk to you, because you make me think about stuff that I didn't even realize as a fan watching. But I'm excited for it. And it's starting pretty soon, which I think is cool. And you mentioned, obviously, with Netflix, I think that's even better, because leave people wanting more, leave people wanting to tune in for the next thing. And I love this. I'm actually shocked it happened. I really didn't think it would ever happen. You talk about it and you're like, Raw should be 2 hours, or we have these conversations, but like, it is wild that it's happening, because for so long, Raw has been that 3-hour show.
But
do you think
think about it, Gabby. Think about it, that if it's on Netflix for 2 straight hours, how many do you know the length of time that most hours are on actual TV and then the commercial time? Do you know those numbers?
I don't know.
All right, so an average hour show is on the air for about 42 minutes, okay? So you got about 18 to 20 minutes of commercial time. So if you go 18 by 3, that's 54 minutes of commercials in a 3-hour show. So if you take those commercials out, right now, Raw on the air is 2 hours and 6 minutes. So it really won't take anything away but the commercials. TV time will be the same.
That's pretty interesting to think about, actually.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, I think this is great all around. I mean, I'm excited for it. I'm excited for my Monday nights to not have to go to bed so late either. I know that's kind of a selfish thing, but it's like when you're doing stuff Tuesday morning and you're up till 11 o'clock.
Do we know what time it's going to start? Is it going to be 8 to 10 on?
It's going to be 8 to 10.
8 to 10. I wonder if they'll keep it the same. They better when it's on Netflix. Don't take it 9 to 11, because when I was there, it was 9 to 11. It was 9 to 11 back when I started. Yeah.
It's crazy too, because I talk to my friends about it, and like if I've gone to a Raw, like a Raw live or something, they're like, "Oh, the kids probably don't go," and I'm like, "There's kids there all the time. Like WWE's huge when it comes to like the kids, and these kids are staying up till 11 o'clock. Parents are probably so happy now that it's ending at 10, and it's like you're getting in bed an hour early now, because what do you have to say for like it's an hour makes a big difference.
It makes a big difference. I also think that you brought up something you didn't even realize that you thought about, because you love going live to shows. It's your thing.
Yeah.
And as I grow my little media empire over here, one of the things I've thought about is having you out and about, because I can't do it. And I want you to be at all these shows and do these interviews.
Yeah.
I have pie in the sky ideas. But if you are live at the show, how much do you hate when they go to commercial break? Because it's obvious when the matches either go into a hold or they're trying to kill 3 minutes, and you don't want to do a high spot during a commercial break. And so now you don't have to worry about that without commercials. They can just have a regular 12-minute match and not have to stop for those stupid breaks, which sucks for the live audience, in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely sucks. And that's in most sporting events. I think people hate the commercial break, because you could tell it's like, and it's a lot on the people in the ring who are trying to keep people still engaged, even though we're in commercial, because, they got to get in the ring and be like, oh, who's having a good time? And like, who's doing this? Like, which I do think the WWE does a good job of, but it's going to be so nice to not have to worry about that. I didn't even think about it, but I love going to live shows. I think my first wrestling, not WrestleMania, my first wrestling live show changed my entire aspect of pro wrestling and being a fan. So I'll always go to the live shows if you don't want to go. That's the best part for me. And just sitting with the crowd reaction, it's not the same as like watching from home. You know what I mean? It's like you really get the feel of what's happening.
I've only seen 3 in my career. I went out for I was there for Raws. I missed 1 in 10 years, so I was there for 519 out of 520 my first run of 10 full years. And then SmackDown started the year that I started as well. So if you double that, I only missed 2 shows in over 1,000 shows. So it gets a little lost on you. I only went out for 3 different moments in my career to watch on the floor, because when you go out there and you're a person on the show, you literally
Right.
people go bananas. And
Right.
it was Rock and Hogan at WrestleMania 18. It was Triple H's return when he tore his quad at Madison Square Garden, which I still say is the greatest moment of all time. And
Yeah.
then the other one was just kind of it was a tag team moment with Rock, and I can't remember who else, but there's only been 3, and they were amazing in person. But that's what happens when you work behind the scenes, is it becomes less special. It sucks, but it's like anything,
Yeah.
I guess,
Yeah. But that's why our perspectives are so different too, because you've been in it and I'm literally watching it as a perspective of only the fan. I've never been, part of it like you have. And I think that's why our opinions are always usually similar, but also sometimes
Yeah,
super
I love
different.
talking to you. I love talking to you.
Something else that happened this week is Cody Rhodes topping the PWI 500.
Mhm.
You know how I feel about Cody Rhodes. I know how you feel about Cody Rhodes. I think it was some people. PWI's gotten some shit lately for a lot of their lists. Some people think they're actually trolling and doing things on purpose to like get people to talk, which I think is hilarious. But I think this was well deserved on Cody's part. He is the face of WWE to me. He is the guy. I couldn't really tell you somebody I think that should have earned it more or gotten it over him. Do you agree with that or do you disagree?
A couple of takes. I do think that magazine does things because, let's be honest, magazines, newspapers, they are a dying thing. So to get people to either buy the actual magazine or to subscribe is a really hard thing to do. So they do clicks. I hate dirt sheets and the articles that will put clickbait out there, because there's been headlines about me that weren't even close to anything that they wrote about. And in the wrestling business, we hate that. With that being said, Cody does deserve it, but I think it's at a time, and I don't know if you agree with this or not, I feel kind of bad for him. I almost feel like behind the scenes, he got his story, he got his thing, and this is almost like a cumulative award, and that Triple H and those behind the scenes have said, you know what, the bloodline is where we're going to put our money. And Roman Reigns missed 3 or 4 months, and I think when you miss time, you get out of people's minds. But that's what needs to happen. I would love to see Cody take a month off and then come back and see the reaction. But he is the company guy. He is the face. Did you notice what they made him do at Bash in Berlin? I don't know if you noticed this. So he has the incredible first match. Come out of the gate, it was amazing. And then Triple H didn't go because his daughter was either starting college or graduating, something like that.
Right.
And so guess who had to sit there and do the business portion of the post-fight press conference? Talking about money, sellouts, all that.
Yeah.
Cody.
Yep.
Cody. And that tells you that he's the company guy. But I want them to treat him like he's the company guy and not push his storyline to the side. I still believe that somehow Cody and Roman are going to end up together somehow, maybe by bad blood.
Ooh.
But right now, Cody, I agree, but I don't like where it's headed for him.
It's interesting because, and a lot of people think that it's going to be The Rock will be coming back for the next WrestleMania and like that will be Cody's story. And obviously now we know with Roman, like what's going on. I do agree with you a little bit because I do think he's the face and it's kind of like, what's next now that you did finish your story? Mm-hmm. Kind of where do we go from here? So like, do we need him? Do we need to not see him for a bit to miss him? Because it always does get that way, right? You kind of you're oversaturated with somebody, and then it's kind of to the point where you're like, I want to miss you because you're gone for a little bit, and it's like, where's Cody? Where's Cody? Where's Cody? Because it happens with Charlotte Flair all the time, Becky Lynch all the time. You see these women on every show all the time, and you're just like, oh, and then they go away, and they get pregnant, and they get injured, and like, I can't wait for Charlotte Flair to come back. I'm counting down the days. I'm like, I can't wait to see it. Then you'll see her for 6 weeks straight, and everybody's like, Charlotte's getting every match. Like, no one's ever happy. But,
can you imagine them, like, making Friends 52 weeks a year? That's the problem. Like, any popular show, Grey's Anatomy, whatever it is, we would get sick of that, too.
Yes.
And Vince never bought into that. He never believed in that. And backstage, I can tell you, Gabby, that was our biggest bitch. We wanted our health back. We wanted to be able to see our family. I literally lost a friend who died in a plane crash, and I wasn't allowed to go because he wasn't, quote, a brother or a family member. And I still
That's
regret that
wild.
because the family of my friend doesn't talk to me to this day because I didn't go to the funeral. And they thought, what's bigger than this? This is like your best friend. And those are the types of things you saw Randy Orton, his interview before Bash in Berlin, talking about how he can actually go to a daughter's whatever. That is still bullshit to me. And they've got to start letting these people miss time for a lot of reasons, but maybe more so for the show so you miss them. I think you hit the nail on the head, but also so they can have some lives outside of this crazy circus.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, even when I was talking to Cody, it's like he's all over. Like, he is the guy who's all over the place, and he does it with a smile on his face, and he is the most kind, great human, and he loves what he does. And he said, "This is where I've always wanted to be. So why would I not bask in it now?" You know what I'm saying? Like, this
And
is
he's
what
making
everybody
$10 million
works for.
a year. That
Yeah,
helps a lot.
I mean, yeah,
That helps
right.
a lot. It
Of
really
course,
does.
of course. But you know, some people do it, and you don't really believe them. He's like one of those people I actually
Yes.
believe, and like I think that's something he has that a lot of other people don't possess.
Agree.
And you know, I'm blessed enough to have conversation with him, and I sat down and talked to him in Cleveland, and he's just that guy. He never really turns it off because I think that's just who he is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the minute he's not there anymore, I think we miss him. I miss seeing him on Raw. It's like one of those things where I was so used to seeing him on Raw, and now what? You're about to jump off.
No. You're hitting so many good points today. Really good points today. We were talking about it on BTT, that this whole notion that guys can't go back and forth on shows when they go,
Yeah.
no, he's a SmackDown guy. You make the rules, and it's a show.
Right.
It's not the NFL. It's not
Right.
NBA. It's not like this guy can't go play this guy. You can do whatever you want to do. And if you
Yeah.
don't have a storyline for him on SmackDown, why can he not go to Raw and be the face over there? Because Gunther is not doing it for me. So I would be moving Cody back and forth. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I did like the Gunther segment on Raw this week, though, because you had Brett, you had Sammy. It was like kind of cool that they were in, you know, Canada doing that kind of like. I thought that was cool, but I don't disagree with you on that. But you know, that's a whole other story when it comes to Gunther. But you mentioned Vince, and I have to get your take on this because we're going to be seeing, and we mentioned Netflix, obviously, the documentary of Vince coming out on Netflix. A lot of different people have a lot of different takes. We don't really know what we're going to get yet. What's someone was so in it with Vince? You were right there. What's your take on that?
So for people who don't know, not only was my character his assistant for more than a couple of years, but I was also on his jet every single week for multiple years because I had to get back to the studio to do shows, and it was a never-ending cycle. So I probably, outside of maybe The Rock and the guys that worked intimately with him, I probably was around Vince more than anybody. And we're actually going to do full reaction episodes after every single one. And Gabby, I still have friends inside the WWE, and I've talked to several, and I can tell you this was a WWE sanctioned thing with Netflix, and that now after seeing it, they are not happy with it because Vince sat down for, I believe, over 200 hours of interviews. And I think originally it was supposed to be kind of, this is your life, good, bad, ugly. Then when everything happened with him and all the allegations, Netflix, it appears, and from everything I've been told, shifted, and this is just a hit piece. This is just one negative thing after another. And hey, I'm not going to sit here and say he doesn't deserve it. You know, he's still worth billions and billions of dollars. But at the end of the day, Gabby, we used to say this about Vince all the time. He only has to answer to two people, the tax man and God. And we're really not sure about the tax man. And so when you have a situation now where your kids don't talk to you, your grandkids have to be taken out of school because of what granddad did, does the money even matter? And then I've had issues with him in the last 3 or 4 years because I did things for him when I was at ESPN to allow him to get the deal with Fox, that $1 billion deal that he literally called me at 3 a.m. in the morning and begged me to do. Vince and Kevin Dunn called me at 3 a.m. in the morning, Coach, we need your help. And then when the script flipped, he couldn't be bothered with me. Couldn't be bothered. And so It's not even about all the allegations. Just on a personal man-to-man level, I was always loyal. I was always there. I always did things he asked me to do that in hindsight, I wish I wouldn't have done. Flying from Kansas to Connecticut on Christmas Eve so I can film something on Christmas morning so he can be with his family in Florida, I did that. Staying on Thanksgiving to be in the Macy's Day Parade because Vince thought it would be a good idea to have a float. What? I did that. So whatever negativity is in that thing, Gabby, it is earned by him. It is deserved by him. And I think most people say the only thing they wish is that somehow he didn't get all these billions of dollars in the process. But he did this to himself. And so I don't think anybody's going to feel sorry for Vince McMahon.
No, and it's like when I heard this documentary was coming out, it's so interesting because I don't know what to expect, right? Like I was kind of new into when I started watching pro wrestling into this Vince era, and now I'm 100% in on this Triple H era, right?
Yep.
But you hear these stories and of these victims and these things that he's done, and it's like, I hate that I have to watch it because I almost don't want to watch it.
I know.
You know, it's like one of those things where you almost feel icky. Like I almost feel icky watching it because I'm like, you know, how are they going to do this and be factual and have him sit there and interview stuff where I'm going to be like, I don't want to fucking hear what you have to say. Like, does that make sense? As like almost as a viewer,
it makes complete sense. You're also a female, and from a woman's perspective, it's and I'm not saying if the allegations are true or not. We talk about them on our show in a factual manner. Meaning, if he's part of the story, we'll talk about him, and that's it. But from a female perspective, when you read some of those things, and he hasn't really denied much of it. He just said it was consensual. So when you read it, you do feel icky. You do feel some kind of way. And the one thing I will say is that in this whole last 10 years, people have a tendency to believe everything that's thrown out there. And certainly lawyers will do that too. I've never commented on the allegations, but I think they're disgusting. And they come from somewhere, right? They come from somewhere.
Right.
And so I understand your perspective. And also, if you've ever been around Vince, what's the best way to put it? Not only is he intimidating, but I said that I think this will be a good take. That you probably have more than a few friends that on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, you say, hey, the football game's on. You want to come over and watch it?
Yeah.
Vince doesn't have one of those people in his life. Not one. Doesn't have a friend that he can say, hey, you want to go have a drink? So every time you see him come out of a restaurant or hanging out with Cena or these guys and late night in New York City, that's because they want something from him, not because they want to hang out with Vince McMahon. And that to me is a sad existence because Denzel Washington taught me a long time ago, there is no U-Haul behind a hearse. You can't take anything with you. And so I don't care how much money you have, what relationships, Gabby, did you leave behind? And Vince has screwed up every single one of those. And as a proud father of two, and my two kids are my life, I cannot imagine having a relationship like he has with those two, Stephanie and Shane, and more importantly, the grandchildren too. That's my stance. And that's why I think nobody feels sorry for him because he literally did it to everybody selfishly and for money, which is why they're doing the Netflix deal as well. All you've heard about is money, 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 because he was there when they did the deal. And it's not about, is it better for the talent, right? It's all about, $5 billion. They hide behind money all the time. It's not always just about money. And for him, that's what he made it about. And that's sad.
It is sad. I would feel bad if there weren't these allegations of all these things happening for him. And, thank God, you talked about his children. Like, every time I've interviewed anybody, anytime I've asked anybody about it, like especially Stephanie McMahon, all they do is sing her praises of how great she is to them, how good she is backstage, like what she does. So it's like, thank goodness that it didn't get almost passed down to a generation of being that way, because I've heard such positivity when it comes to her. And like when she was at SummerSlam, like the pop for it, obviously she's married to Triple H. So it's like, it's sad that money is just what makes the world go round for some people. And, in every aspect of everything, like this is pro wrestling we're talking about, but obviously politics are hot right now. You know what I mean? All these kinds of things, like it's so much that goes on behind the scenes that we don't even know. And I'm sure even on the documentary we're going to watch, it's not everything. You're not going to, how do we even know what's going to be the truth, especially if it's coming from him? Like, I don't know what to believe. I don't know if I would believe everything he says anyway. So it's like,
it's so funny you say that. It really is. We're going to talk about the Flight from Hell is a famous story, and I watched that documentary, and they interviewed 4 people, and it was like 50 minutes of bullshit. And they actually threatened to sue me, the producers, because I said it on Twitter. And they're like, "We're going to sue you." I said, "For what?" "For lying." I said, "But I was in the middle of it." I said, "I was in the middle of that entire story. And yet you didn't interview anybody that was back there. And you said Vince was on the plane. He was never on the plane." Like all those things. So to your point, I think this will be a little bit different because Vince was interviewed and this was kind of his idea, so to speak. But I think you're going to see a lot of people like myself who were very close to Vince have some very strong opinions because he's also going to come off as callous. He doesn't know any other way, Gabby. That's just who he is. You're going to see a Vince that he just at his core, he's about money. He's about himself. He's about the company that he built. And think about this, Gabby. If you built something into a billion-dollar behemoth, and then at the end of your life, you don't get to enjoy it, and there's not one McMahon that's attached to the WWE now, not one, to me, that's incredibly sad.
It is. That's a crazy way to think about it too. He did all of it and now he's not ending with it. And it's just crazy. People have said like Vince McMahon will never die. Like he is that guy that's going to live such a long, like that's what a lot of people say to me about him. I've never met him. I don't know him obviously, but it's a wild way to think about it. It's the one time I'm more excited. I'm so excited to be on social media after it airs because that's where I think is going to be mayhem and madness. Yes. And it's going to be a cesspool of people. Speaking of a cesspool, before you have to go, because I know we have to wrap soon, I need to get your take on the bloody, gory shit that we saw at AEW with Swerve and Hangman, because we were talking a little about it, and we both disagree on how we feel about it. So the needles and the chair shot to the head and all that kind of good stuff.
So I got shredded on social media, and I took like 5 minutes. I went in to look at the people who shredded me. Not one person had over 42 followers. And that tells me a lot.
That's how it goes.
That there are a lot of people on social media, and that's part of the problem with executives nowadays is they look at the people who write on social media when actually 98% of them are intelligent, have jobs, and have things to do. So we don't have time to sit around and do that. I'm only on social media because I need it for my content, for what I do.
Yeah, right.
What I think now, when you have kids, and I have 2 kids that are even in high school, and you look at that and people, "Coach, that was a storyline. If this was in a movie, whatever." It's not a movie. It's a real life movie. And these are real things with kids in the front row watching it in real time. And in what world, and this goes back to laziness, when you can't write a story good enough to have a hypodermic needle inside somebody's mouth, it was disgusting. And then a chair shot. After everything that I've been through in my career, I've got staples that were in the side of my head, both sides, from chair shots that were missed. And I don't care. Everybody, "Coach, it was gimmick." You don't know shit. Really? 13 years inside the WWE. Don't tell me about a gimmick's chair, because there's a kid, Gabby, sitting at home in the backyard that's taking a real chair. "Hey, I saw this on All Out. Let me just bang him." And then you got cinder blocks. And then MJF, you're a $5 million a year player, and you're going to take a pile driver off the middle rope onto the top of your head as the guy? To me, it's Tony Khan saying, "I'm listening to Twitter. I'm reading Twitter." And I know for a fact, Gabby, that he does that. I got a call from somebody inside AEW. This is a true story. And they said he reads Twitter and books off of that reaction. So he's listening to these scrubs and these marks that think they know what they're talking about. And when you do that, you go farther and farther. And I'll end with this because I want your take. But Bryan Danielson, who is the OG of OGs, who prides himself on being one of the boys, and I love this business, I respect this business, and you're going to agree to do a storyline where they put a plastic sack over your head and try to suffocate you? In the real world, that's attempted murder. But not in AEW, it's not. Why would he do that? I don't know. And I'm waiting for, and I hate to say this, the story that comes out that some 9-year-old kid suffocates his brother because they're playing in the backyard, and he saw Bryan Danielson do it, so I'm going to do it. I hated the whole thing. I thought it was lazy. I thought it was gory. I thought it was a glorified indie show.
Okay, so I didn't hate it. I am a little bit different in the sense of I think I look at it, they've come out and said like kids aren't their demo. If their demo that they're aiming for is the 18 to 35 or whatever, like that's who that was for. And to be fair, that's what it is. I think if parents, especially like if you're sitting down with your kids and you're watching wrestling and you're offended by it, I understand, and you don't want your kids to watch it. I completely understand. But those are like maybe conversations that have to be had where you say like, oh, this is why they do this. Or if they can't kind of, go between the two, then don't have your child watch it. I think if that's not the demo they're aiming for, then it makes sense. I think the turn from Moxley and the BCC on Danielson was epic. Like I really did love it. I think it was in the company one of the biggest like heartbreaking kind of things to see. And I think it was a good direction to take Danielson in what he's doing. I didn't hate it. I think the Swerve Hangman stuff, it was just, it showed how much they genuinely hated each other. When Hangman burned down his childhood house, like, I'm sorry,
Okay.
that shot was something
Okay,
like,
Gabby, those were two different houses. That was how bad that was. They were two different houses.
It's the idea for me. It's the point of what it was.
I know.
I don't watch as a wrestler watching it or someone who's been in it. I watch it as a fan.
I get that.
And like just the shot of it was cool to me. Like, listen, was it gross to watch? Like, yeah, but was I kind of like, oh shit, like this is happening? Like if I get a general reaction like that where I'm like, oh shit, like you got me, because that's something like where I'm like, that's kind of fun. Like, that's kind of cool. This is why people like GCW. You know what I'm saying? Like, and sure, you're targeting
like
to that.
First time I've talked to somebody like in real time that actually liked it. I'll be honest with you.
I didn't hate it. I think it got too much hate. Listen, it's not like I'm like, oh my God, that's what I want to see every single time. I
think that the business has to evolve, and also we've got to be, and maybe you're right. Maybe it's because I was in it, but to me, chair shots to the forehead were outlawed a long time ago. I've told this story, and I hate bringing it up, but Chris Benoit trained me. I mean, Chris Benoit was the guy that I was in the ring with every single day, and he is the poster child, unfortunately, for CTE. There are days where I feel like NFL, it's not just wrestling, but it's all sports, and it's a very serious thing. And when you take it, gimmicked or not, and you still have that in a wrestling show, then you're telling the entire world, I don't care about people's long-term health. And that, to me, overrides the shock value of the show, because that is very, very real. And CTE is a problem.
I get it. Listen, I would never go and not say that that's a huge problem. I've never been in the ring, and I don't have to worry about those kinds of things. So I have respect to people that practice those things safely, and I would never want a child to do it irresponsibly and hurt themselves. Of course not. I just think it was a shock value kind of thing. And I think that's why they did it. And I think they defended it. And
let me ask you one more question, because I have to go. Let me ask you one more question. If you are running a company and you're trying to sell a TV deal, and you have to think about it from the executive's point of view, not from your point of view, but I'm trying to sell my show and I don't have a TV deal. Is that the show that you want sitting in a boardroom and asking them for hundreds of millions of dollars? And that's what you can expect from us over the next 2 or 3 years?
Finally, NFL Week 1 is here. And the new season means new ways to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Are you ready to do a touchdown dance of your own? I think you are. I think it's one of the best reasons to watch NFL, to see the touchdown dances, right? Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the best place to bet touchdowns. Not the second best, the number one best place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code COMBINE. That's code COMBINE, COMBINE, for new customers to get $250 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. And on top of that, and get 1 month of NFL Plus premium on us. That's crazy. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for any gambling problem. Call 888-78-977-77 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming sources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms.
Is that what you want?
I mean, probably not. I'll
It's
let you
not
know when I'm in the
probably.
boardroom.
It's
I
not,
will be one
but
day.
that's what they have to think about, Gabby. Right
Yeah.
now, Tony Khan, every other interview is, we're close to a TV deal. WWE's deals are done. They've got the billions.
Yeah.
AEW, if they don't get a TV deal, the company's over. And they don't have one. And that, if I'm walking in and I hit play on that, my offer just went way down. And I'm throwing stuff into that contract that if I ever see that, it's over. And that's just the reality of 2024 in the TV business.
I get it. I also just think the way social media took off with it was a lot. Like the fact that, there were a lot of good matches and that's what everyone clung to. And that's, you have the people that are like freaking out about it. And then you have the people that are like hardcore loving it. Like,
all right, if there's anything you guys know about me, you know how much I love pizza. It's not even a question. It's my favorite food in the world. Gabby Laspisa loves her pizza. And being from the pizza belt, I'm very selective with how I take my pie, which I've also spoken about. Chef founder Chris Wallace started Ozzy's in his home kitchen back in 2021 with the hopes of bringing his hometown's pizza to Los Angeles. Co-owner and fellow New Havener, Craig Taylor, joined Ozzy's in 2022, and the rest, as they say, is history. Pizza history, if you will. Brought together by their shared love of metal, comedy, pro wrestling, of course, and beats, they have made it their mission to bring the thin, crispy, well-done style they've always loved to the City of Angels. Now, you guys know I wouldn't just be talking about pizza if it wasn't good pizza. So if you have not tried Ozzy's Pizza, you are 100% missing out. So go and get some Ozzy's Pizza and thank me later. Gabulous Pizza with the pizza. Mwah.
Like, I think that gave into it as well, where, do you know what I'm saying? Like, I think the internet took it and ran with it.
As we take this full circle, that goes back to people that were hardcore loving it were those people with the 50 followers on social media. And I've learned, whether I was in WWE, ESPN, wherever, I've been at a high level, that executives do that. They look at these reactions without actually looking at who's reacting.
Right.
And you're playing to people who have a very, very low wrestling IQ, and they normally don't spend any money, and they just look at, well, it's 18 to 34. I get it. But if you're Tony Khan, and this has been documented, he watches Twitter and he books off of Twitter. And if that's the case, I mean, I'm doing a show right now with Vince Russo. And when he was writing for Raw, it was reality based, but you never write for the fans. You write for the show. And then the fans ultimately will like it, but that's how you keep storylines going. Where do you go if you're Hangman Page and Swerve now after you've done that? Where else do you go?
I think Swerve's taking time, a little bit of time, I believe, but it's true. Yeah. Listen, I don't know. I just watch what I watch. Maybe because
I love these.
I'm one of those. I like scary movies. It's it's coming into Halloween. I'm just excited to see gory shit because I like that. That's just my personal preference. Maybe I'm just a weird majority human being. The Saw movies are like my favorite trilogy of movies, like thing of movies. So it's like maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm all fucked up. I don't know, but. I listen. I don't hate anything that I see because I do think people work very hard in what they're doing. So like I'm never going to do that. I try to stay emotionally invested as much as I can in everything.
And you're a great fan, and that's why we adore
you. I am. I'm one of those. But all right, Coach. Thank you so much. I know you have to run. I appreciate you hopping on with me for a little bit. This has been pretty awesome. I think we talked about some cool stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we will. We talk a lot, so I'm always there to annoy you.
I will see you soon, okay?
Thank you so much, everybody listening. Tune in for another great episode next week. And let me know your thoughts on all the stuff we talked about. engage with us on social media. I definitely want to know. Until then, LYMNB. Love you most. No backs.